Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I am here today to talk to you about Lochlea, the very first single malt whisky release from this brand new distillery. I am filming this on the 24th of January 2022. Tomorrow is Burns Night, 25th of January, as it is every year, and tomorrow is the official launch of this particular whisky. And the reason it's launching on Burns Night, it was actually supposed to be launched in November of last year, but due to bottling issues, they had to delay the launch slightly, and they've decided to go for 25th of January, which is absolutely ideal for this distillery because there is some very close ties to Burns himself. So before we talk about what's inside the bottle, let me give you a bit of background information about the distillery itself and how it links to Scotland's Bard. The Lochlea Distillery is a conversion of the farm buildings at Lochlea Farm, situated 8 miles south of Kilmarnock, and at which the world-famous Scottish writer and poet Robert Burns lived and worked from 1777 to 1784. Plans for a distillery by the current owner Neil McGeoch were approved in 2014 and whisky production commenced in August 2018. Malcolm Rennie, who'd previously been distillery manager at the likes of Bruichladdich, Ardbeg, Kilchoman and Annandale, initially worked with Neil as a consultant before coming on board full-time to oversee the birth of the whisky. However, he then left to join the rebirth of the Rosebank Distillery in October 2021 and was replaced by John Campbell, who had previously been the distillery manager at Laphroaig for 16 years. The distillery is another new whisky venture who are producing a grain-to-glass spirit. They grow their own barley in fields literally over the road and have their own water source. The bottle itself features embossing referencing the tyre tracks that surround the farm as well. The team have experimented with various cask types during production, and the first release is a combination of spirit matured in ex-bourbon, with all signs pointing to Maker's Mark, and ex-Pedro Jimenez sherry casks. There is no chill filtration or colour added, and it's bottled at 46% ABV. So, hopefully you'll be able to see the marks on the side and also the corner of the bottle on either side of the labels there, which do reference the tyre tracks, the tractors that go around the farm, because this is a working farm as well as a distillery. Now, it is, well, I'm going to upload this on Burns Night, which is the 25th. I am actually doing a Burns Night dinner this Saturday, and everybody that's present at the meal, it's a 3-course meal with a variety of whiskies and cocktails and things like that. This will be the dram that is going to be served with the haggis. It seems entirely appropriate to do that. We've got ties with Burns because he did live and work on the farm. It's also a brand new whiskey, so it's something that everybody there will not have tried. So it seemed like a really good opportunity to present it. So 2 of the bottles of the very small allocation that I've got are going to be opened and drunk by the people at the Burns Night dinner, which leaves me with 2 bottles less than the very small allocation that I did. And let me give you a little kind of behind the curtain of what it's like being a retailer of spirits, particularly with limited edition popular single malt whiskies, is the way it's working out at the moment. I'm having to do a ballot for the remaining bottles, and I'll just, simple mathematics, 127 into 4 does not go. So this is what I'm having to deal with. So, fortunately, there will be nearly 50 people that are going to get to try it anyway, and hopefully I can give you an indication, because if you don't manage to get your hands on a bottle, I might be able to give you some kind of indication of what this whiskey actually tastes like. So, Lowland whiskey, the association with Lowland whiskey is it's light, it's grassy. Now we've got a lot of new distilleries that have come out recently as well, so it's going to be really hard not to compare this to the other new distilleries that have come out recently. We've got Ardnamurchan, we've got Raasay, we've got Annandale to some extent, although that's been going for a few years. We've got King's Inch, which is another new one that I'm going to be doing a video on fairly soon. We've got Lindor's Abbey, we've got even the English ones, the likes of Filey Bay and things like that. So we've got a lot of whiskies that are now out on the market that are young, but very flavour forward. A lot of these new distilleries that are coming out are, and a lot have had the involvement of, say, Jim Swan, are very much flavour up front, even though they're really young, even though they don't have that age statement on, because anything under 10 people aren't going to buy, because people think that whiskey, Scotch whiskey in particular, starts at 10, all of this stuff. We've got 4, 5, 6-year-old whiskies that have bags of flavour and are already brilliantly drinkable now, and potentially will just get better. So I am also a sucker for anything whiskey-wise that says the words Pedro Jimenez on. It's a flavour profile that just ticks boxes for me. So I'm very much looking forward to how this is going to work out. So I'm not even going to bother with colour. I've given up talking about colour on videos. I haven't done what I've been doing in the shop. I started to do it when I was doing my Dram a Day videos, and then realised that, to be honest, whether it's got colouring added or not, I am not bothered. I don't think the colour, to me, really makes much difference. You know, it looks nice when it's darker, that sort of thing. Sometimes you can get lovely colour if it's like a red wine finish or anything like that. But yes, it's pale. So what? Is that going to affect the flavours? I don't personally think so. If you het up about colour, okay, that's fine. You do you, but I'm not really that bothered. What's important to me is the nose and the palate. So, nose, light, fresh, slightly citrusy. There's almost a little touch of like lime peel, almost like a lime oil, not zest, not freshly cut zest, but a whole lime, and you kind of smell quite close up, that slight lime oiliness. There is a fresh citrusiness to this, but there's also definite kind of fresh cut hay as well. Not fresh cut grass, this is hay, this is like freshly cut hay. There is a slightly fieldy and like farm fields, but in springtime when the sun's out and it's warm and it's fresh and things are growing, but it's not that kind of farmy stinky feel. It's nice and delicate. There's a little bit of sweetness coming through as well, a touch of that vanilla that you might expect from a bourbon cask. It sort of starts off quite fresh and then it softens with the nose. It mellows out, it becomes more warmer. That lime zest, not zest, lime peel, a whole lime feel sort of has dissipated and become warmer and more slightly creamy as well. Really nice nose. It's not big and bold and in your face. It's subtle, but it does change, it does evolve. And it's very, very pleasant. It's very spring-like, it really is. Right, on the palate. And what's on the nose really is on the palate as well. There is a slight citrusy feel to it, and again, closer to lime, but slightly softer, almost like a lime cream, like a key lime pie feel to it. There is a nice, soft, biscuity note. Kind of, there's vanilla cream, there's a warm maltiness to it, but it's still fresh, and that youthfulness is kind of perking everything up, rather than it being very soft and almost flabby. The youthfulness is bringing those warm, biscuity, creamy flavours and actually uplifting them slightly. The finish does go on for quite a bit as well. This really, really does remind me of something like a key lime pie. Now, you might have seen my review video of the key lime pie gin that Three Wrens do. And that very much is that kind of, the biscoff is up front, the liminess is there, it's quite subdued. This has elements of that. It's not quite as sweet, it's not quite as biscoffy, but there is a biscuity note to it, there is a creamy note to it, there is a citrusy note, and you could almost liken this to a very soft, very subtle key lime pie. There are elements of that within this whiskey. There's also that little touch of oak, which I think is the youthful character of it. It's really very much a spring summer whiskey. It's zingy, it's light, it's zesty, it's got lots of character to it, but it's quite a few high notes. Whereas some of the other new distilleries that we've got, the likes of the Ardbeg and the Raasay, are, in terms of, if you were thinking like an orchestra or music or anything like that, very much like lower, deeper notes, you know, dark fruits, that sort of thing. This is much more higher notes of kind of that citrusy note, that kind of lighter biscuit. It's almost refreshing. Now, I'm filming this while the shop is shut, and my radiators are timed so that they go on when the shop is open, so I'm not wasting electricity. So it's slightly chilly in the shop because it's January and I'm in England, in the north of England, so it's like cold on cold on cold. And I wonder what this is going to be like if it warms ever so slightly, because I actually like it ever so slightly chilled. I think the temperature that it is accentuating those higher notes to it. I would be very interested to see what it's like. And I could sit around and wait and kind of hold this and warm it up, but I've got stuff to do. I've got better things to do in my life. But I'm not saying put this in the fridge. What I am saying is that, you know, if it is cold, if you've got the bottle kind of, you know, in a cold room or something like that, it's not actually going to do it a disservice. It kind of suits that. It needs, I would almost suggest, it feels like it's going to work ever so slightly chilled in the garden on a summer's day or on a spring day or something like that. And dare I say, and there will be people, possibly even from Lochlea themselves, who are going, oh God, what are you on about? But actually, you know, Scotch and soda, something like that. This will work really, really well in a light whiskey sour, something like that, a light whiskey cocktail. But what I do like about this is there is enough character at such a young age, but I sense that there is enough there that as time goes on in the cask, as that kind of bourbon, that richness of the Pedro Jimenez starts to kind of like influence there, we will actually start to see warmer notes coming through. But this, I feel, is going to be, as a house style, probably quite a light whiskey anyway. The classic lowland style in terms of like slightly lighter, slightly fresher. And it does tick a lot of those like lowland boxes. You know, Ben, what's a lowland whiskey like? Well, actually, lowland, as a sweeping generalization, considering every single bottle of whiskey produced, not every bottle, individual bottle, but every release by distillery has differences between them. But if you wanted a massive sweeping generalization of what does a lowland whiskey taste like, this very much is a good stereotypical example, or a good example of that stereotype, because saying this is a stereotypical example feels like I'm doing it a disservice. It's an absolute belter. It really is good. There's lots going on and it seems to change. I'm getting a little bit more of that sweetness through as it has slightly warmed up. I feel like I'm getting more of a sweeter sherry note coming through. So there's not dark fruits in there, but it feels like sultanas. I'm starting to get a slightly kind of sweeter sherry note that's coming through it, which is great because it's changing every time I'm tasting it. So looks great. You know, I really like the package. I know some people, I've had a couple of conversations with people, I know some people are not sure about it being quite modern in style, but to be fair, that's kind of the way the industry's going. I think it's really nice, and I do like this kind of texture on the bottle. The whiskey is eminently drinkable. It really is very, very kind of spring, summer, warm days, slightly refreshing, but there is that slightly softer, deeper note that's started to come through, and that's what's lingering now. So after me waffling on, I've now got more of that slightly darker fruit. It's very much sultanas rather than raisins. We're talking a light fruit cake rather than deep, dark Christmas cake. And I'm really, really interested to see how that develops over time as they start to get older batches coming out. But yet again, another brand new distillery that is flavour forward from day one, drinks brilliantly well. You know, I'd be really tempted to put this on a tasting blind, and I am very tempted to do a blind tasting for some of my customers where I'm not going to tell people how old they are, and I want people to try and pick, because I think quite easily you could say that's 10 to 12. And that's what I'm finding with a lot of these new distilleries now, is the mouthfeel, the texture, the richness, the complexity of flavours that's there at such a young age belies how young that is. They are coming across as 10, 12, 15-year-old whiskies. There are several 10-year-old whiskies that I've had recently that I think are probably less complex and less deep than some of these new ones are coming out. And Lochlea, and I keep wanting to call it Lochlea. I don't know whether it's my inner Star Wars nerd, but for the last few weeks until relatively recently, when I heard a couple of other people talk about the distillery and went, oh, that's how you pronounce it, I've been calling it Lochlea for weeks, and it's not, it's Lochlea. But Lochlea is in this pantheon of brand new distilleries that are hitting the ground, not just running, bloody sprinting. They are doing an absolutely fantastic job. Price-wise, I think it's absolutely fair, $49.99, and that seems to be where we are with kind of new Scotch distilleries at the moment, 45, 50 quid, that sort of thing. It's already sold out, so, you know, if you're watching this video thinking, oh, I'll see if I can get a bottle of it, so it's gone. I did not get a lot, and I went to my customer mailing list and said, Is anybody interested in a bottle? Let me know. If I get more numbers that want a bottle, I'll have to do a random ballot, and I've got way more numbers because it's new and it's Scotch and it's collectible, and I'm sure that there are people out there that just want to flip it. It launches tomorrow. I will be checking auction sites from about 6-7 o'clock onwards, because I have absolutely no doubt that there will be some on auction sites for 100, 150, 200, that sort of daft price, because that's the way the whiskey industry is at the moment. Or not the whiskey industry, the whiskey consumer market is at the moment, and it's getting ridiculous. But that is for another video. That, you know, I'm not going to rant on this. But Lochlea, great stuff. Really, really impressive. Really intrigued to see where it goes. If you do manage to get your hands on a bottle, you're going to love it. If you like fresh, fruity, easy drinking whiskies with bags of character to it, you really are going to like this. If you want something big and bold and meaty and beefy, and or completely unpeated, as far as I'm aware, there's no indication that any peat's been used. But if you're wanting a big full-on whiskey, no, that's not for you. But if you want a light, easy drinking, fresh, refreshing whiskey, then that will absolutely do the trick. So if you can find a bottle, good luck to you. So you can't buy it from www.spiritspecialist.com because they've sold already, but do go and check out the website and see if there is anything else. Never say never that I don't get any more stock, but I have a list a mile long of backup people, so if I do get some more stock, it will be going to them first. But you know, it actually deserves it. It is a really good whiskey, and I do hope that the people that do manage to get a bottle do open it and drink it, and don't try and flip it, because that's not what it's in the bottle for. Right, that's me done. I shall see you at the next video. Cheers.